Hey, everybody. Brent Axe here, syracuse.com. We are live on the Syracuse football page, on the Facebook page, shortly after Dino Babers addressed the media after it happened, folks. Syracuse defeated number 2 Clemson at the Carrier Dome on Friday the 13th. Weird things happen on Friday nights at the Carrier Dome. Even weirder things happen on Friday the 13th. And in this case, it was one of the biggest wins in the history of Syracuse football. The first time Syracuse defeated a team in the top 2 of the country since 1984. Just the second time it's ever happened in the history of Syracuse football. That first one being, of course, the win over number 1 Nebraska at the Carrier Dome in 1984. No matter how you measure it is one of the biggest wins in program history, a stunner at the Carrier Dome on Friday night. Syracuse did it. They beat Clemson 27-24. So glad to be here on a Friday night talking with you after an incredible football game. Joe says it right in the comments to start off here. Can I get a hell yeah? Hey, why not? You can get whatever you want, Joe, because Syracuse beat the number 2 team in college football today. So please share, please like this and kind of spread the word that we're here on Facebook Live, chat with you here. So give people a minute to get in here and be a part of this. Yeah, Louisville a couple years ago, Brendan, and West Virginia when Syracuse beat them on a Friday night, and Geno Smith still has nightmares about that. I mean, there is something about what we have seen kind of fade in recent years, but pops up from time to time, even last year when Syracuse beat Virginia Tech at the Carrier Dome. That place can get loud, it can get crazy, and it can provide Syracuse an unbelievable home field advantage. But this, folks, there is not a word you can use to exaggerate what this is. It is epic. It is huge. It is one of the biggest wins in program history. It is everything you can do to label this game. And all week long, listen, I didn't give him a shot to win this game. I'll be flat out honest with you. I know it's college football and weird things happen, and that's why you play the game and all those cliches that we hear. But this is truly why we watch sports. This is why we watch sports, because stuff like this happens. Because the unbelievable becomes believable. It's the last unscripted drama out there in the world that, is an entertainment. This is why sports provides us these great memories. That's why, Al Michaels screaming, "Do you believe in miracles?" rings in our heads for so long. And there's something about college football where the right set of circumstances, something like this can happen. Incredible. How did Syracuse do it? Is the question. And I think we're all just going to be processing this all weekend long and for a long time. But bottom line, folks, okay, Friday the 13th, 2017 is going to be remembered forever. And this is a program-changing win. This is a mark in the sand. That Virginia Tech win last year, of course, was huge, and it kind of gave us an early sign of what Dino Babers and this program was capable of. Well, now, to beat the defending national champions, number 2 team in the country. And I know, as we'll talk about here as we go along, Kelly Bryant wasn't out there and Clemson, had some injuries. But look, Syracuse went out there and straight up beat the team. They did it with a great offensive performance, with Eric Dungy making pinpoint throws, with Steve Ishmael getting open for big-time catches. They ran the ball when they needed to. Last week, Dante Strickland really ran the ball well in the second half against Pittsburgh, and it kind of gave us a foreshadow of what Syracuse had to do to kind of burn some clock in the fourth quarter and run the ball in this game. They ran the ball when so they had to overcome penalties. Penalties were a problem again. There were huge penalties. How many Syracuse fans were ranting wherever they were at the game, watching at home, on our live chat on syracuse.com, on Twitter, about that touchdown that was taken away, Steve Ishmael, and what was a very questionable offensive pass interference. I mean, it looked like he pushed off a little bit, but they certainly could have let that go. And you say to yourself, a game like Clemson, a team like Clemson, they're going to jump on that. They're going to make you pay for that. That was a 2-touchdown swing right there. Instead of Syracuse going up 21-7 in that moment, the game's tied at 14. But they battled for 4 quarters. And look, we're going to give proper credit where due everywhere here, okay? Eric Dungy's great game. The defense, getting in Kelly Bryant's face. And, look, we hope he's okay. What a hit by Chris Slayton. Put him down as a clean hit. It was not a dirty hit. It looked like Bryant was either knocked cold or knocked unconscious for a little bit. He's out with a concussion, and they bring up the backup quarterback. And, at Clemson, all the quarterbacks are five-star, big-time talents. But, this is what you have to do to be the number 2 team in the country. We talked about it all week. Syracuse would have to get pressure on the quarterback. Kelly Bryant never got comfortable in this game. Travis Etienne had a 52-yard touchdown run, and there were certainly flashes from this team. They're a very talented team. They're going to make plays, but they nowhere near established the consistency and the offense that they needed to. The Clemson defense, okay, see, this is where we have to give the most credit. Folks, that Clemson defense, I cannot stress to you how good it is. All 4 of those players on that front line are going to play in the National Football League, okay? The Syracuse offensive line, as young and as inexperienced and in some cases as banged up, there's a couple of injuries on that offensive line, went out all night. And look, they were under duress. Eric Dungey got sacked a bunch of times, and they had to make plays in a hurry. But they did it. They fought, and they pushed around the best defensive line that they're going to see this year, and one of the best they'll see, period. That's how good Clemson's defensive line is. Syracuse hung in there, pushed that team around, and never yielded to Clemson. And there were a couple of moments when we thought they would. I brought up that Travis Etienne touchdown run from Clemson, 52 yards. That ties it at 24. This is after, so Steve Ishmael gets a touchdown. He makes it 24-17. Etienne runs 52 yards, and you're saying, okay, here's the moment. And then Syracuse responded to that by only getting a field goal after a long drive. But here's one of the most amazing stats of this football game. Not only did Syracuse defeat the number 2 team in the country at the Carrier Dome tonight, they never trailed. Syracuse either led this game or it was tied the entire way. Clemson never led in this football game. That is incredible to think about. Now, we saw some signs of this coming, right, guys? LSU, you go down to Death Valley, and maybe LSU's not the mighty LSU we thought, but that is not an easy place to win. And Syracuse came close, and a couple of mistakes and some penalties and some, pick 6 early in the game, and they get that close, and they're right there. And you say, wow, they went down there, and they gave them a pop of the nose. Same thing in Raleigh against NC State. Right there in the fourth quarter, didn't put 2 halves of football together, but much better in the second half. They're down 26-7 at halftime. They come back in the second half, and they get right there with a really good NC State team. Today, they beat Clemson. They had to win last week against Pittsburgh. We talked about how that was a no-excuses game by the same final score, by the way, 27-24, and they take care of business. So what was the narrative? Short week, defending national champions, no way it happens. And I was the first person in line to say that, and I was wrong. And you know what? I'm glad I was wrong about this, because what a victory for you, the Syracuse football fans, to savor and enjoy and remember tonight. No matter how the rest of the season goes, and you got Miami next week, and look, Miami plays Georgia Tech tomorrow. They are a team that's a little banged up themselves. And, look, here's the thing. Here's the thing, guys. Syracuse beat Clemson. If you beat the number 2 team in the country, you got to build on this. You have to be consistent on this. You have to keep doing it. But you believe now you can beat anybody. Okay, nobody. We want Bama. Bring on Bama. We want them. We want Bama. No, just kidding. We don't want Bama. But, hey, why not? Why not? This is incredible. So you have that belief that you can beat anybody. To get this win in your back pocket, I mean, folks, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about? They lost to Middle Tennessee State a couple weeks ago. Middle Tennessee State. But beat Clemson. That's college football for you. Weird things happen in sports, man. That is the beauty of sports. At the end of the day, the beauty of sports is you cannot script this stuff. You can't write it out. It would be really boring if we knew how a season would go. Syracuse picked up a 4th win today. Now they go down the stretch, and they got Miami next week. And then they get a bye week. Then they go to Florida State. And they've got Wake Forest and Boston College down the run here. They've got a 4th win. They're only 2 away with 5 to go to qualify for a bowl game. And I saw Joe say that they should be 6-1. I mean, look, they're pretty close to being 6-1, right? LSU, NC State go the other way. If you take care of business against Middle Tennessee State, there's no question they should be a better football team here. But no matter what happens the rest of the way, and I think Syracuse fans want to see this team build on this. They want to see this team, keep going here. But you just made your season. And here's the other thing, folks, okay? What does Dino Baber say all the time? Belief without evidence. Faith. Belief without evidence. He now has the evidence. He does not have a woulda, coulda, shoulda. He doesn't have an almost. He doesn't have, hey, we beat Virginia Tech a year ago. He now has a program-changing, program-defining, look what we did win. And you did it on a Friday night with the whole country watching. You had the sole attention of the sports world. The American League Championship Series was going on tonight and a couple other things. But not that this wouldn't have a big impact if you didn't do it on a regular college football Saturday. But if you do this on a regular college football Saturday and there's 4 other upsets that day, maybe it gets kind of swept under the rug a little bit. But you did this on a Friday night with the whole country watching. Syracuse was trending on social media, and everybody saw this happen. And if you didn't see it happen, if you're just, randomly out somewhere in the country and you look up at a television screen in a sports bar somewhere or wherever you are, and on ESPN, there's Syracuse 27, Clemson 24. You say, whoa, what's going on here? One of the biggest wins in the history of Syracuse football. You look at Nebraska in 1984. You look at Florida in 1991, top 5 win over Steve Spurrier then. There are wins, not as highly ranked teams, but major wins in program history. Think of that 1987 season. Penn State, when they erased a 16-game winning streak by the Nittany Lions. West Virginia at the end of that year. Auburn turned out to be a tie. Thank you, Pat Dye. Right? The 1959 national championship team, you could go through. There's great upsets that weren't against as highly ranked teams. McNabb to Berminski in the end zone in 1998. I know I'm leaving a bunch out here, but no matter how you rank this, no matter how you do this, this is one of the biggest wins in Syracuse football history. You saw history tonight. And you did it we brought up how great the offensive line was. We brought up Eric Dungy's play, ran the ball when they needed to. Steve Ishmael fighting off penalties, fighting off those Clemson cornerbacks making plays. This Syracuse third down defense is incredible. We're now more than halfway through the season. We're 7 games through this thing. Syracuse is 4-3. And they have one of the best third down defenses in all of college football. And they did it again tonight against Clemson. Kelly Bryant in the game, Kelly Bryant not in the game. This is incredible what this third down defense has been able to do, stop after stop after stop. And what I really liked about the Syracuse defense tonight was how aggressive they were for 4 quarters. God rest his soul, the great Tom Petty. I won't back down. Who else had that in their head watching this game tonight? I won't back down. I won't back down. That defense never backed down. They came at that Clemson offense. Folks, this is a defending national champion, top 5 team full of 4 or 5-star recruits everywhere you go. But the beauty of sports and the beauty of college football is it's not just about the stars by your name. It's the heart. It's the aggression. It's the hustle that you show. And this team believed in a message that Dino Baber sent, and it all came together in one of the most unlikely spots we think it would, but it did. And I saw, somebody say, what about recruiting? What about recruiting? This is massive for recruiting. How many people can say they beat Clemson? Clemson just had the longest winning streak in college football ended in Syracuse, New York tonight at the Carrier Dome. It was 11 games and counting. Now, it's interesting because the last 3 national champions have all had at least 1 loss. We have the college football playoff now, and if you lose a game, it doesn't kill you, but recruiting. I mean, there's 2 teams that have beaten Syracuse, that have beaten Clemson, by the way, in the last 2 years. One's Pittsburgh last year, and the other is Syracuse. Every phone call Dino Babers makes, and I have not watched it fully yet. Remember that speech after the Virginia Tech game? We know whatever speech he made in that locker room with those ESPN cameras in town went and recorded that, and soon to be viral, I'm sure. You're going to see that very soon if you haven't already. It's on social media now. But, when people wake up tomorrow, and by the way, when people wake up tomorrow and watch the biggest college football show, one of the biggest sports shows in the country, what's College Game Day going to be talking about all day tomorrow? Who beat Clemson? Syracuse beat Clemson. That's right, Syracuse. Richard asked in the comments here, do you think we can pull an upset at Miami or FSU? I mean, how can you say no to that now? Not only because Syracuse beat Clemson and has the confidence they could beat anybody. Look, Miami is a team that's got some injuries. They're piling up injuries. I want to see how they do against Georgia Tech on Saturday. But not only that, Syracuse, one of the big things when you go to Miami is the humidity and, can you keep pace? Syracuse stresses endurance, how they practice and how they want their players in shape. Playing in Miami is not going to be a problem for this team. And we know how humid the Carrier Dome can get, right? All the fake cramping that we've seen from teams wasn't as bad tonight, but that we've seen in the past few weeks. Florida State is nowhere near the power they usually are. Florida State's down this year. Florida State lost their quarterback, DeAndre Francois. They lost a couple of games due to Hurricane Irma, so they couldn't really get James Blackwell in there to get him going. But Florida State is nowhere near the program that they usually are. They have a losing record right now. And Syracuse gets them out of a bye week. Now, both of those games are on the road. That's the next step for Dino Babers, is to prove you can win a big game on the road. The Virginia Tech and Clemson wins came at home. You'll take those anywhere you can get them. At home, on the road, on the moon. Okay, you'll beat those teams wherever you can do it. But that's the next step. So they could beat those teams. They absolutely could beat those teams. There's no question about it. This is a program-defining win. We mentioned how aggressive the defense was. They didn't have Josh Black out there. They didn't have Kendall Coleman out there, but you saw Chris Slayton get aggressive. Paris Bennett is an all-ACC linebacker. The year he has put together has been incredible. He made some big third down stops. I think the secondary has held up extremely well without Antoine Cordy. There really weren't any big passing plays out there tonight. Hunter Renfrow is a great wide receiver. He made some terrific catches for Clemson tonight. And by the way, we all know my man's going to end up playing for the New England Patriots. Can I just say that right now? I mean, Hunter Renfrow is going to play for the Patriots. You can just see that coming. But they never made the big pass play. Etienne had the big touchdown run, and, I may be forgetting about a couple of plays here, but it was Syracuse that made the big plays. They came out, and Dante Strickland's opening touchdown run, 23 yards. It was a catch and run for a touchdown, pardon me. Open field all the way. Brent Venables is one of the most respected defensive coordinators in college football. And for a good part of that first quarter, first half, really the whole game, but particularly in the first half, they didn't know what to do. Because not only did you have Strickland's 23-yard touchdown, how about Irv Phillips' 66-yard touchdown? Nothing but turf in front of them. Clemson got aggressive. They came up. Dungy just goes over the top, 66 yards the other way. Incredible. And again, had Syracuse had the touchdown hold that Steve Ishmael got called back for what was a very questionable pass interference call, right? It's 21-7 at that point. But even though in reality it turned out to be 14-14, Syracuse just kept making play after play on both sides of the ball. And you know what? They struggled for the most part on special teams. Cole Murphy kicked another one out of bounds. Sterling Hoffrichter, we didn't hear a lot from tonight, which is a good thing because that means the offense was on the field. Shanked a punt and gave Clemson great field position. Murphy did make a field goal. You got to give him credit for that. But listen, all the opportunities handed to Clemson, they never led in this football game. You want to talk about no excuses. This is a no excuses loss for Clemson. You can't come to Syracuse and lose to Syracuse, right? But that's the beauty of football. That's why we don't play these things on computers. That's why we don't match these things up and just say, okay, well, you're the better team. We're going to hand this to you. You've got to line up on the field, and you got to prove it week in and week out, particularly a team like Clemson. Dabo Swinney said it leading up this week. We're going to get everybody's best game week in and week out. That's what comes with being the defending national champions in a high-profile program the way that they are. What an incredible win. I hope you guys are partying. If you're watching on Facebook Live tonight, I have not walked through Armory Square on my way back home tonight from where we're doing this at downtown Syracuse, but it's going to be a big party in downtown. But, the beauty of doing something like this here on Facebook Live, which by the way, we turned this into a podcast. You should subscribe on iTunes, okay? We do the Syracuse Sports Podcast, which is a weekly podcast that I do, but we also turn these chats into podcasts so you can listen on demand. So look for that on iTunes, okay? The beauty of this is you're tuning in from all over the place, wherever you are today. I hope you're having a great time. I hope you're partying. I hope you're high-fiving strangers. You just see a stranger in the street and you go give them a high five. Why? Because Syracuse beat Pittsburgh tonight. You guys deserve this. You deserve to celebrate a great win like this. Where they go from here is going to be amazing to watch because the beauty of something like this is now you got to build on it, right? The ACC Atlantic Division all of a sudden is wide open. Clemson was the team that I thought was going to run away from it. Now they've got a loss. NC State has built up and become a great team since an early loss to South Carolina to start the year. Louisville has trailed off. Florida State has trailed off. So every opportunity is there for Syracuse now to not only build on this long term. The long term is the memories. No matter what, you beat the number 2 team in the country. And that is going to be a mark, right here in this press book, okay? Every time you look in this press guide for eternity, it's going to be right there that Syracuse won this type of huge football game, and it's going to rank up there as one of the best. And it's going to be a memory for the 42,000 plus that were there, the Clemson fans that traveled up here. I met a lot of Clemson fans in town today. They're great people, by the way, great fans. They're never going to forget the trip up to Syracuse. Long term, that's all that. In the short term, how do you build on it? How do you get recruits to answer your phone calls and get meetings and let Dino Babers come into your living room that maybe you wouldn't before? The shockwaves that come from that. Recruits are the best recruiters. The guys that are committed to Syracuse, that are coming, that are going to get on social media now and be like, look, that's why I'm going there. That's why we're doing this, and how that will build. This is a 4th win this year. What kind of confidence does this build for this team to get number 5 and number 6? Because you get that bowl game. It's not only the prestige of going to a bowl game. And you look, they hand out bowl games at gas stations these days, right? Here you go, have a bowl bid. But you got to win 6 wins. You got to get 6 wins to get there. The beauty of that is the extra practice that comes with that. That's how you make a team better. Those 15 extra practices are huge. It's everything. It's everything. I cannot believe we're sitting here talking about this, but we are. We are. It's real, kids. You're going to wake up tomorrow and be like, did that happen? Did we watch Syracuse football beat Clemson on a Friday night at the Carrier Dome? The answer is yes. The answer is yes, you did. You saw that happen. You saw that happen. And, there's been times where the football program has been down in recent years and they can test your patience and the highs and lows of being a fan. Well, soak in this feeling tonight. Soak in this feeling about what it's like to experience one of the biggest wins in program history. And I'm happy that this generation has a win like this, because I don't remember the Nebraska win. I was 6. Okay. I'd certainly heard stories from my father and people that I know that were there. It's funny. This is a true story. I was talking to a gentleman on my radio show. We do a pregame show here downtown at Shaughnessy's Irish Pub before the game. And there was a gentleman sitting not too far from me. And he said, look, I was at that Nebraska game in 1984. I brought the good luck with me. So, sir, you were right. You brought that good luck with you. But, see, that's that generation. This generation now has that epic win to talk about. Those kids that are going to Syracuse University now, the younger fans that heard about Donovan McNabb and heard about these great days of Syracuse football, and they're saying to themselves, like, okay, well, what does that mean? I mean, Virginia Tech was a big win, and there's been certain things that have been long in recent years that have been good, and good teams and good players, but nothing epic like this on the football front. You've got that now. You've got your story to tell. That you were in. There was 42,000 people there, but, as the years go by, there's going to be 420,000 people there, right? Oh, yeah, I was there. I was there, right? Those stories will build as we go. So I'm happy for those fans. I'm happy for the kind of the new generation of Syracuse football fans that were looking for something like the generations prior to them could smile about. Like, listen, I'm telling you, there was a time when Syracuse football was great. They haven't been in the top 25 since 2001. They needed a benchmark. They needed something to say, this is happening. Is there a better way to do it than beating the number 2 team in the country at the Carrier Dome? So kudos all around to Syracuse. What an amazing game. Eric Dungy made so many great throws. The offensive line, I cannot compliment enough for how they handled the best defensive line in college football. I'm going to leave some players out of this, but as I mentioned, that defensive line, the linebackers all around. Coaching, look, there were some penalties and some things that they've got to clean up, but they stayed aggressive. They stayed aggressive. They stuck to their guns. They took control of the game, and they didn't let it slip. Everybody deserves kudos for this win tonight. The fans were great in the Carrier Dome. You had to kind of fight off some Clemson fans that can be loud, right? But the fans were great. Everybody's great. This was an incredible night for Syracuse football. So we've got more to do. We've got more to take in here I hope you enjoy this all weekend long. It's great that this happened on a Friday night because now you get the whole weekend to enjoy something like this, right? We're going to have plenty more coverage on syracuse.com throughout the weekend and in the days to come. So we hope you can read that. My recap will be up tomorrow. If you're watching this on Friday night, Saturday morning, first thing, we'll have my recap up. Enjoy it, Syracuse. Enjoy this. This is amazing. This is amazing what Syracuse football did tonight. There's more to come. They've got 5 games to go, and we'll be back here next week right after Syracuse plays Miami next Saturday. That's a 3:30 kickoff. We'll be right back here on Facebook Live. But enjoy this. Savor this. This is amazing. It's incredible. It's unbelievable. It's every word you can think of. But it happened, folks. The Syracuse football team beat the number 2 Clemson Tigers at the Carrier Dome. Thanks for watching here on syracuse.com. We really appreciate it. Again, this is a podcast as well on iTunes. Please subscribe to the Syracuse Sports Podcast. You'll also find syracuse.com sports recaps in iTunes, so you can get them sent right to your phone, and you can listen on demand when you want. They did it, guys. Syracuse beat Clemson 27-24. Thanks for watching here on Facebook Live. Enjoy this. We'll meet you again here next week after Syracuse plays Miami.